What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of AOS Trash Pandas. I'm your host, Rob, and with me, as usual, is my co-host, Carson. How's it going, Carson?
It's going pretty well, Rob. Thanks for checking in. How are you?
I'm doing good. I do have a cough. So we tried to do like a test beforehand to see whether or not it was going to be loud, or I sort of tried to do that, and basically we can't tell because Google cuts out all the loudness, right?
Yeah, it's got that noise dampening. So actually, it was completely silent when you coughed.
Yeah,
it wasn't even that it was quiet.
Exactly.
It was just inaudible, which I'm sure is not the case in real life.
No, it was, oh my God, no. Yeah. And then like I tried covering the mic, which I just did now, sort of almost for a second there. And I was like, am I at least quieter when I cover the mic? He's like, you sound exactly the same loudness, but you just sound worse. I was just like, God dang it. So I'm going to do my best to kind of flinch away from, so if you guys see me like doing dives away from the mic or whatever, that's what is going on. There is a rumor engine. Did you have a chance to see this worthless 40K rumor? I mean, very interesting 40K rumor engine of something that's clearly extremely tiny because the frickin' pigment is insanely big.
Yeah, I did have a chance to look at it, and it's definitely 40K of some kind, or maybe Necromunda or something. Who knows? But
that's true.
Not AOS.
Not something we care about.
Yeah, unless those are mushrooms, you know.
Oh, maybe you can really see the print lines though. Hey, on like the 3D printer that they use to make these prototypes.
Oh right, yeah. That's true. Especially, I guess when it's such a small one, that makes sense for sure.
It's true. Yeah. How's everyone doing? Like, thanks to everyone for joining us. Sorry, we were planning a stream. We were planning a game last week, but I got sick, and Carson wussed out on us, and he was like, cold.
My partner's starting a new job.
Yeah.
Sick. That's
what
what
an
I said.
Idiot. Yeah. That's what I said as well, obviously. Because he is. But yeah. So I'm sorry about that. And then on top of that, we were going to do the stream about Stormcast tonight, but like no one got their stuff. Right. So I thought we'd talk about that a little bit because it's been going on for, it's been kind of consistently the case. Like, do you guys remember, like, I don't know how long some of y'all have been playing, but back in my day, which was like, and I'm only talking like 4 or 5 years ago, right? You used to place an order, right? You place the pre-order, and it would be, the Games Workshop or your local game store would phone you on like Tuesday or Wednesday and be like, we got the stuff in, we can't sell it to you yet, but wanted to let you know that it's here. Now we've got a 2-week pre-order. Okay, I'll say this for the show. I'm sorry, everyone. I jumped the gun a little bit. I'm getting into it a little bit. We're going to talk about Kippers. We're going to talk about a little bit about IDK. We're going to talk about our good friend Alex, who did very well at a golden ticket event. But before that, we're adding a new segment to the show. It's kind of an old segment that we're re-adding to the show. And we don't have a name for it yet. So maybe y'all could tell us, like, maybe you could give us a good name for this segment. Like, I was thinking, it's zoomed in on Carson. He's thinking about it. I could see the gears turning in your head. I was thinking something like, what you working on? But it's not like specific enough. I mean, eventually, don't you want a graphic or something like that where it's like, what you working on? And then it shows like a hammer. Yeah. Right.
And then like a big lightning bolt comes out of Terry Crews's abs. And then it's like, not much. What about you?
Exactly. Well, I am working. I basically finished. Wait, are you? Was that actually your thing?
No, that's not. That's
Oh,
I'm
okay,
actually working on
okay.
these.
Okay,
That was
okay.
the joke.
I know you're working on some stuff, but we can't talk about everything
Yeah.
because we have a very big thing coming, but we haven't announced it yet, and we're not going to just announce it randomly out of nowhere. So, that is the idea of the show. What are you working on, Carson?
Well, I just finished painting a little chaos guy.
Nice, nice.
That's the name of the unit actually, is Chaos Guy.
Chaos guy.
Actually, in Spanish on the box it says Senor Chaos, which I think is amazing.
God dang it! God dang it! I love that so much.
It's just a Chaos Lord, and I painted him so that he's like, it probably doesn't come through very well on this camera, but what's up?
Senor Chaos.
Senor
So
Chaos.
Awesome.
I'll
You need to
post
call
pictures
him
of
Senor Chaos now.
it. Senor Chaos.
Or what if it's like Senor Carson or whatever? Like give him a name, right?
Yeah.
And wait, question: should it? Yo, Josh, we still don't have a cheeseburger emote for you. I'm so sorry. I also haven't added like a couple of emotes that I need to add. But before we go off on a tangent, Carson was off in the city's Discord channel today demanding his dice back and worse, threatening us with 12mm dice.
Okay, I'm gonna read verbatim what happened, just because that's not true. I wasn't demanding my dice back from everyone.
Okay, fine. This is another new section of the show, and it's called Actually.
Yeah, right? And that definitely doesn't exist anywhere else. That show name. So what happened was, I can't remember what happened before this, but Rhino, who is he was a member of Team Canada for NA Masters, said, "Whoa, I only listen to true masters, P and W. I mean, Carson W gave me a dice, and all I may have been bought off." That doesn't seem grammatically correct, but basically he was alluding to the fact that I gave him dice at NA Masters. And then I responded to him saying, "Yeah, I'm going to need those back next year." And then he said, "Okay, down with PNW." And I said, "I need them back, ... so I can give you new ones." And he said, "All right, praise be to PNW again."
There you go.
And I said, "They'll be 12mm this time, though." And then he says, "I'm going to riot."
Yeah. You know what's funny is I actually just got a message, I think it was yesterday, asking if the Hunzo dice, which you can get in the Etsy store, linked down below, come in 12mm. And I've got that question a couple of times, but it's also been about random other dice, like the Toad dice and stuff. And I'd love to make them. The problem is like the design just gets too small, on some of the more intricate ones, right? So
yeah, like our club dice worked out pretty well for 12mm because it was
that's true.
Simple.
Very simple.
I can see the Hanzo dice being too complex.
We actually had trouble like making it legible on a 16mm square dice. But yeah. Anyway, okay. Before we forget everything. Oh, actually, sorry. There was one more thing. I know a lot of people don't really care about this, but I really like the red Gobbo. It's just something that I love that they do. And I think this is my favorite yet. And I think I'm going to buy this one and maybe paint it and maybe turn it into a Christmas ornament, but I haven't decided yet. Yeah. Anyway, that is okay. So now back to what you working on.
Terry Crews. So yeah, I was working on the Senor Chaos. I posted pictures of it in the Discord just now if you want to take a look at it, like actually close up. Nice. It was fun to paint. It's nice painting like one-off foot heroes sometimes because it's just done. I don't have to paint 20 of these because I'm trying to make like 2 units of them or something. So it's nice to kind of one and done. And then I was debating what I want to paint next because I'm going to be bringing Slaves to Darkness probably to a couple other tournaments, maybe even for the rest of the year. And
nice.
I was like, okay, they have a book coming out and I've got a decent amount of them painted, but I don't have enough for like the lists that I want. So I'll be borrowing some, but what is something that I'm going to be able to paint that I'm going to have in like literally every list? And the 2 options were basically like the Nexus Chaotica and then probably Be'lakor.
Right.
But the Nexus Chaotica is like even more, it's your faction terrain, right? So you're always going to have it. So I'm going to be painting that up next. I'm going to be building and painting it. I'm just not sure what I want to do with like flags and stuff. Just because.
Oh, flags.
Yeah. Because if you look at it, it's like got a bunch of chains and whatnot, and it'd be nice to like hang flags down from them. But I'm not sure if I want to green stuff that up yet. But I don't know.
That would be
paralysis.
That would be, yeah. I get that too, where you're just like, I've got this idea. I don't know if it's gonna work, and then
I'm just gonna build it and then see how easy it would be to like hang green stuff things.
Well,
and I got the offer to like have some 3D printed banners as well, and I might take that up as well. So
if you do like actual green stuff, you could add a little bit more yellow, and then that way they're a little bit softer. And then if you don't like it, you can literally just cut it off.
Doesn't yellow make it harder for green stuff?
I thought blue was the hardener. Maybe.
Yeah, but either way, yeah, I can be doing that for sure.
I mean, or just mix it normally. It's still easy to cut off, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I could do is I could do like the whole thing where you have like, how you have like a whole bunch of little triangle flags on like a rope or something?
Yeah, totally.
It'd just be that on the chains, basically.
Yeah.
And then I just glue them on.
And that would make sense with your background of your affection. Yeah, I like that idea.
I think I might just do that then.
Yeah.
And it's easy because I don't have to paint like heraldry on them. I can just do like stripes and whatnot and just colors. So that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. I never read Asbury's comment where he said, how can you tell the difference between a Forge World Titan and a recast Titan? The Forge World Titan still has print lines on it where they cast the mold without sanding the print lines. Oof. I wish I could say he's wrong, but he's not wrong. Anyway, I've been working on some clan rats, and I've been working on some rattling guns. I pretty much finished the clan rats, and now I've started working on 6 rattling guns, a unit of doom flayers, and the Galvanier all at the same time, which was really dumb. I'm gonna stop with the Galvanier because but the problem was I was doing like that armor that I've been doing, and then I was like, well, he's right here. Like I might as well just use the rest of this paint. You know what I mean? To start his armor. But I actually picked up something over the weekend. A lot of us airbrush, and I've been trying to find some like airbrush, like the brushes, like basically these. These airbrush cleaning brushes, and every one that I found was like it was too big, except for one of the ones that I got way back in the day, and I should find it. It's disintegrated. There's like one little like nubbin around there, but everything was too big, and so I looked it up. I actually didn't look it up. I wasn't that smart. I was just on Pro Acryl's website looking to see if there was any colors that I didn't own. This is what it was actually going on. And then I was like, oh, they've got a little airbrush section. And then I clicked on it and I was like, oh, they've got airbrush cleaning brushes. I need to find them. And then, so I got them. And so this is a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. And it goes, oops, I literally missed the hole. Okay, there we go. And it goes all the way through.
Tell me about
it. It goes all the way through. So I'm really glad about that because I've been using these weird dental picks, but they're meant for flossing. So they only go in like that far. And I've got one that I like curved, and I do like a reach around on my airbrush and jab it up there. Anyway, and then I've got one that goes in straight. But I'm super happy to have these, these things are totally resistant to solvents and stuff like that. So that's really cool. So yeah.
Nice. Also, it's interesting that you use dental picks to clean your airbrush. I actually buy the Pro Acryl things to floss my teeth.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very inefficient and expensive, and my dentist hates it, but I just like to support the company,
I mean, if your gaps are big enough to fit these things, then I think you need a new dentist. I think the problem is maybe you're actually your dentist. Oh man.
Well, the thing is, you start with the small ones, and then you work your way up to the big ones, right?
I couldn't fit any of these things through my teeth. What are you talking about?
Well, if you press hard enough, it'll do it.
Fair. Oh jeez. There's like no enamel on your teeth whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh geez. That was funny. And you were saying that you went to Richmond Reroll.
Yes, yeah, I went to Richmond Reroll this weekend to play a game with Arthur, who is a delightful person to play a game against. And they just got in their Pro Acryl rack, and like it's nice because there's usually a bunch of colors that are like always sold out, and that's not just Pro Acryl, that's any paint company. People kind of single out the best ones, and I was just like, ooh, and I started like picking out the ones that I was looking for, and I was excited. I found this warm yellow, which looks a lot like Averland Sunset.
We skipped over the bit. I told you not to
tell
me.
I
told you not to tell me. God dang it.
Oops.
I was gonna get all my yellow paints out. Like, I'm not a yellow paint guy, but I've got like 5 different yellow paints here, and I was gonna be like, is it this one? Is it this one? And then you ruined it.
I did ruin it. You're welcome.
Thanks for that.
No, I'm excited to have an.
It's like warm yellow, hey?
I like an orangey yellow.
Like a Porsche yellow.
Porsche yellow.
Right?
Porsche. What is that?
It's a very warm. It's still clearly a yellow.
I would say I see what
warmer?
No. Even not as slightly more orangey.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a little
yellow.
Like if you look up Averland Sunset from GW.
I guess it really depends on which. Because like these different pictures, I can't click on the YouTube video, but like
it's just like almost like a dark yellowy orange, but leaning on yellow. It really receives like washes super well, which is nice.
Absolutely, it really does actually. And then you can bring it up from there. And again, I'm not really a big yellow guy, but
yellow oxide or yellow ochre.
No, I've actually got like what I was thinking of up on screen. I don't know if you can see it or not. Oh, I see.
I like a yellow ochre, I think.
An ochre is like, it's like not even fully a yellow at that point, eh? I've got ochre. Orange and yellow ochres. They're a great base. They're a great base.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Is like I find that it's really easy because yellow is like a really fickle color to paint with. It's super hard to get looking
famously
smooth.
Annoying, actually.
Yeah, and I find that if you just do like white primer and you do something like Averland Sunset or hopefully this warm yellow as a base coat, just do like a very simple wash, either brown or black or whatever your low tone is supposed to be. It ends up turning out really well. And I've had a couple of my Slaves to Darkness models like pop because of it, which is nice. It's nice awesome to have that. It's basically what Imperial Fists looks like when you paint them up.
Right.
For Space Marines.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a very warm yellow. That's kind of what I was thinking. That's what I think of as a Porsche yellow, but I guess it really depends on what picture you're looking at. And the camera and whatnot it was taken with. I do like yellow. I really like yellow. I'm looking for a chance to use them, but I've been thinking about like after Skaven, and I don't think I wanted to use yellow. Anyway, it's a long story, and I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, going through that. Anyway, okay. Arthur says, thank you for the shout out, guys, and thank you for the hat, Carson. I wore it today.
No worries. I gave him a Sag of Dice hat. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yeah, Arthur, great guy. He was on the podcast not so long ago to talk about his event. So, speaking of events, so that was what you working on.
Well, what are you working on?
Oh, well, like I was saying,
you're just talking about the airbrush thing? Okay, never mind.
No. I said I'm working on some rattling guns. I started doing, I I can show them. I started doing the. I'm painting these guys off their base. So the annoying thing is like I did each one according to their like own base, and I made it like it work on each one. So now I have to keep them all right next to their bases. Otherwise, they're not going to match up well, which is super annoying. But I think it'll save me time in the long run. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I was working on that. I was doing some actually also pro acryl, dark silver, I think it's called. I love that paint so much. I actually went back to Vallejo metal color again, and I didn't like it as much. It's not as even, you know? Like, I know it's got a lot of liquid in there, and so you have to unload your brush, and so a lot of people don't like that aspect of it, but yeah, I was just kind of looking at it. I'm like, I'm not getting as even a coating as my dark silver, but yeah, it's been really good though. I'm enjoying it. I just haven't had that much time to paint. I was out at my brother's place over the weekend, visiting for his birthday. We actually went out to, Castle Fun Park. Yeah.
Yep.
That place. It's like, okay, arcades are dead, but they still have an arcade, and it is alive and thriving. It was super awesome. We played all sorts of those, like, like the Jurassic Park, like games where you're like shooting at the screen and whatnot.
Yeah.
I
have you like sitting in a Jeep, basically.
Yeah.
And stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's super awesome. So the old ones were like handguns, right? Like Time Crisis style, which they had Time Crisis 5. I thought they stopped at like 2, maybe 3. And then in 5, they've got these 2 pedals on the ground, obviously because they're pedals. And they got these 2 pedals hanging above your head for some reason. But what you do though is like you've got your gun, and then you hit left, and you'll go around, and you'll like approach them from the left, so you can like catch them out like from behind cover and stuff like that. It was fun, man. And then if you let go of the pedal, then they duck behind cover. But they had that. They had a Jurassic Park one where you've got like a Gatling gun or something like that. And then they got like a Halo one, Alien versus Predator, or Alien. I can't remember which one it was. They had like 5 or 6 just of those types of games. Time Crisis 5 and yeah, a bunch of them. They were super fun. They had like an axe throwing game, and like there was so much fun, man. Like I really miss arcades. It just made me realize that like how awesome they are.
Yeah, there's a certain like actual real space interactive component of arcade games that happens sometimes where you're like holding the little gun. And I think that the only time that take home games have kind of replicated that well is Guitar Hero, where like they actually give you instruments to play essentially. And I don't know, I miss that too. It's nice to have something other than just like a controller or a mouse and keyboard to grab. So
it's true. And what's sad too is like you probably remember how crazy popular like Guitar Hero and Rock Band was when it came out. It was nuts. It was crazy. Everyone had one. And then it kind of died off. I guess it naturally does that. And then Mad Catz bought the rights to make all the instruments for the new one. And it was like this huge mistake, and it actually made them go out of business for like a while. They actually filed for bankruptcy. They were gone because they're known for making fighting controllers, arcade sticks, right? And they made really good ones, and they were like the biggest sponsor. And it's funny, they gambled huge and they lost big, but they're back now. They're just making arcade sticks, thankfully. But yeah, I don't know. I just had so much fun going there, and like they had like a lot of the old school fighting games too. So I got to play like Third Strike and like Marvel superheroes and X-Men Children of the Atom and like a few of the other old school fighting games with my son, and that was just cool. It was so would recommend. Hopefully the arcades aren't all dead near you. We only have to drive like an hour to find ours, so we're actually pretty lucky. They have go-karts, they got putt-putt golf, and all sorts of stuff there.
There's other arcades too. I think the Rec Room has arcades and stuff like that, doesn't it?
Where's the Rec Room?
There's one in Brentwood, which is like Burnaby, and then there's one that's gonna be opening up, I think, on Granville downtown. But that's
is
like,
it like a bar?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So you can't take you can take kids, but not like at bar hours, I think. But yeah.
No. But I mean, it's just like, yeah, I don't. It's a little different, like an arcade versus like a bar with like a bunch of arcade machines and stuff. But that's really awesome that they're doing that. It's like a way of bringing it back. Because they still exist in other countries. Like I know Japan and Korea still has like a fairly healthy arcade scene. But
yeah, Beefy says Rec Room is country. Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know that. Also, there's every time we go down to Bellingham for the GT there, they have this like pinball bar that's right next to like this punk concert venue, and you just get this mix of people that are like super super like.
I hope that wasn't loud.
Again, it was completely silent for me. So.
No, I know. I didn't mean for you.
Yeah. But it's cool. Just like you go to the second floor of this bar and it's just lined with pinball machines. And people are playing like, taking turns and competing and stuff like that. And they've got beers and yeah, it's a good time.
Sorry. Do you have to pay for the arcade machines? Like, yeah. Is it quarters or like?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's quarters.
Castle Fun Park, they use cards now, and then you can load them up. But the cool thing too is that like I wanted to play one last game, and it was $2. It was like one of the more fancier machines, and then I had like $1 and like 40 cents or something on the card. You can put just 60 cents on the card and play it, so it's pretty awesome. And then if you play certain games, you get tickets, and you can like get stuff from like the little shop down below. It's really cool. Anyway, yeah. Sorry. This has been our Castle Fun Park arcade segment. We got all sorts of new segments for you, everyone. And by the way, I would not pop a hip playing Dance Dance Revolution. Come on now.
He'd pop both.
I'd pop both. I'd dislocate them. Yeah. And I look like a puppet on its strings.
Yeah, and then you just be slapping the spaces where your feet are supposed to hit, and then yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even want to know. Anyway, okay. So I guess like next we'll talk about we probably should have started off. I've been watching some content lately. I don't normally watch a lot of like wargaming Age of Sigmar content anymore. Once I started making it, it's just like one of those things where, you know what I mean? You can kind of get too, I don't know. You kind of want to just step back when you start making it. Some, not always, but some things really stood out for me, and there's still stuff. There's still some stuff that I really like to watch. And one of the things that I really like to watch, Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games. He does these like interviews of like with like this, just like he'll bring on this guy who just owns a store. He owns a store in like Ontario or somewhere, and it's called like Inside the Industry or something like that. He had Adam from Tabletop Minions, and he's had a bunch of interesting people on there. My favorite though is the guy though who just owns a store. And they just talk about the industry. They both worked for Games Workshop for a long time, and now they own their own store. And now I've started following and watching their content. They started making their own content where they're just like in their actual store, and like the phone will ring and like people will walk in and stuff like that. It's really funny, but it's really interesting. So, all that to say, they've been talking about different things, but I pre-ordered my Skaven, well in advance. Almost no one got their Skaven stuff on time. And a few people got it early and whatnot, and that's great. I'm happy for them. But a huge portion of people didn't get their stuff on time, including myself. And it wasn't that big a deal because it was like my son's birthday. So I was just kind of like, well, That's fine. You know what I mean? I'll pick it up when it comes in. And I still had Scaventide and whatnot, right? And then we were scheduled to do the show tonight with Stark, an amazing Stormcast player, and his stuff didn't come in, and a lot of people's stuff didn't come in for the Stormcast as well. And it's been like that with a bunch of their products. Now, a lot of people might remember, but before the pandemic, was it just before the pandemic? When did their production issues really start? Was it during the pandemic?
I don't know if I can answer that because I haven't been involved in the hobby seriously until like a year and a half ago, right?
In AOS, but you were doing 40K.
Yeah, I only recall ever like participating in one pre-order, and that was for like Necrons or whatever, and that seemed to all arrive on time and whatnot. So
right,
yeah,
that's fair.
But yeah, I feel like I'm not a good source of like knowing when the change would have happened.
I'm fairly Beefy says during the pandemic. I would have put down like at least $100 to saying it was during the pandemic. But before that, and I kind of talked about this earlier, we were kind of going like, well, before the pandemic, you would order something and it would come in like that, right? And then during the pandemic, like, well, it's a freaking pandemic. What are they supposed to do? Like, the shipping lanes were messed up and there was all sorts of vaccination nonsense and whatnot. And there's all sorts of stuff, just issues, problems that were totally understandable during a freaking global pandemic like we had never seen before. So, okay, fine. And then after the pandemic finished, we're like, okay, well, they're still getting their bearings and, yeah. And then it was like, like a year after, 2 years after, and you're kind of going like, you guys still don't have this sorted? You know what I mean? Like, it feels, and I mean, I'm not the most organized person in the world. That's somewhere where I really struggle, right? But took my mom to the doctor's yesterday, and and he was just like, yeah, so like, do you take her blood pressure? And I'm like, here are her blood pressure readings, here is the beats per minute, the date, you know what I mean? And I'm not an organized person, but he was very impressed. He actually made a note of it. And I said, well, I organize it out of my phone. I have to. And he's like, that's what you got to do. Right. So, and by the way, this is not a rant. There is it really isn't a rant. I swear to God, my point is not that like I could do it better. My point is actually that I don't know what it like. I've placed orders for a multi-million-dollar store. I've been responsible for ordering stuff for a multi-million-dollar store, but I've never been. I mean, the production side. I make my own dice and I ship my own dice, but like we're talking like a completely different thing. It might as well not even be like in the same category of at all. My point though is then at one point after the pandemic, maybe a year ago, maybe you guys can remember. Darren also confirmed it was during the pandemic. Putting all that aside, at one point they said, okay, we're doing 2-week pre-orders from now on. We're going to fix this. Right? And I don't know, it seems kind of worse to me. Like, it seems like, I'm not saying they're doing something worse. Like, I don't know what is going on. But all this to say, it's the idea that I came up with for this show at the last minute because we didn't, it was basically, we knew yesterday that we were going to have the book ready in time. Does GW have a production issue? Are they having, shipping issues, organization issues? Like, I wonder what the deal is. Like, do you have any, hopefully you have some thoughts.
There's a bunch of people in the chat that have kind of been piping up.
Good.
Arthur in the chat, who is the store owner, said a little insider knowledge. GW's North American distribution center has been behind since the holiday 2 weeks ago. That's fair, but also I think that this is something that's been present longer than that. Of course,
something that has been, and by the way, actually, Arthur, I'm glad you said that. So this has been something that's been going on way longer than that. Like Skaven came out over a month ago, but like it's been going on like basically regularly. But a great thing about ordering from your friendly local game store, and Arthur has a shop in Richmond called Richmond Reroll, is that you can order it ahead of time, and then you don't have to like be on the computer and know exactly what's going on. And that's aside from like discounts and different things you can get. But that's what I really like about ordering from a local store. But it's just like what is the problem? Like the whole idea of the 2-week pre-order window was to alleviate this, and it feels like it's worse. And I don't understand what the issue is. Like if it's not like an organizational issue, doesn't it have to be a production issue?
Yeah, I think so. Probably. Asri says as well that the pandemic hit while GW was in the middle of modernizing their logistics and distribution network. Needless to say, the disruption messed up that deployment, and they've never really recovered. Well, yeah. Well, I've also heard things where like the demand for Warhammer has been like going up and up and up. Like they've been doing amazingly as a company. You know, they've been posting like record profits and whatnot, which leads you to believe that they've been having record sales, which leads you to believe that the demand is crazy.
Right.
And Games Workshop as a company, I know as far as like their factories go, most, if not all of the stuff except terrain, I think, and books is made actually in the UK.
It is.
And when that's the case, you don't have these like massive factories in China that can just be like spun up and spun down at a moment's notice kind of thing. It's probably a little bit more of an ordeal for them to set up in the UK just because it's a lot more costly, and it's like a permanent fixture there instead of them just like outsourcing it to someone. So I could see that being a thing. Matt says, my understanding is it's a shipping issue as well. That makes sense too. Like the UK is an island nation.
Yeah.
Like they're having to ship all over the world.
Okay.
And there's probably a huge
and that's
amount.
fair, right? But then like shouldn't it have been shipped well in advance?
Yeah. But I mean,
like
just-in-time manufacturing has become like a really common thing to expect from a lot of companies.
That's true.
Where, sure, that is the best solution as far as making sure that consumers get their things on time. But if people are still buying it and they're still making record profits, it's probably not like, why would they spend more money when they don't have to, right?
Well, I don't even think they need to. I think it's more just like okay, if you show up to work every day 5 minutes late, right? And nothing ever happens bad, there's no reason for you to like make sure you get there a little bit early.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like actually even that is like, let's say you have a bus that you have to catch, where you can either catch the early bus and you're 20 minutes early to work, or you catch the later bus and you're 5 minutes late to work. You're probably going to try to catch the 5 minutes late one if you can get away with it, right? Because it's costing you a lot of time and therefore like money otherwise.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if that's kind of part of it. I don't know. I just like, you know, I made like the thumbnail for this, and I was, you know, like I kind of was thinking of that podcast. By the way, that podcast is I think it's called Lords of War Games or something on YouTube. You guys can check it out. They just do like 15-minute talks or whatever, half an hour talks. It's the two owners of the store, and they just talk about like interesting sort of stuff within the industry. And that's kind of where I got the idea a little bit from there, where it's just kind of like, you know, like I made like, for once I made a little bit of a clickbaity kind of title to the video. And then I'm kind of doing what they do, where it's kind of like, you know, like make this clickbaity thing, and then it's kind of like, it's probably fine. Like it's probably just this minor thing. It's not really.
So you're saying you're baiting people into clicking?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, that reminds me. If you guys like what our clickbait, please hit like on
please reward our bad behavior by liking and subscribing, leaving a comment down below, and hopefully you can hear me over Rob coughing his lungs out. So is everything okay?
I feel like if you try to talk,
that's fair.
You've been coughing, it makes it worse.
Yeah, I could see that.
Alex says, frustrating to pre-order and then not have it not arrived on the release date. Yeah, okay. You're such clickbait, and now here. Thank you for joining us. I mean,
gotcha.
Yeah. Honestly, I love the irreverent way in which they do it, and they even talked about it on the interview on Guerrilla Miniature Games. And I mean, it's not like, I don't think it's actually clickbait. We're talking about the title of the video, but it seems a little bit more whatever. Anyway, Alex is saying it's frustrating to pre-order and then not have it arrive on release date. It is, and I mean, okay, so I had a question for everyone. Would you rather, right? Would you rather have it the way it is now? So there's a street date, right? Like, what was this last weekend? The 27th? Right? Wait, today's the 29th? 26th. Okay, thank you. Yes, for Saturday. So the Stormcast stuff comes out on the 26th, right? And so therefore, no one, if you order from Games Workshop, they generally will ship it out on that date or later, and then you get it that week, right? And then if it's the stores, then what they try to do is they try to ship it in so it comes in during that week, and then they can put it out and have it available on that Saturday, right? So, would you rather they keep it like that? Or would you rather it was like, okay, guys, this is the date where stuff comes out by, but we're going to ship it sooner than that. So if you order from Games Workshop, you might get it a little bit earlier. And everyone just kind of knows, that's the date. But we don't want things to get there later. So, and if the stores get them early, they can sell them before that Saturday. But the Saturday is the date will get it to you. Personally, I'd rather have the latter. I'd rather have it just that's the ideal, because the reality is that there's a lot of stores that will just sell it to you ahead of time. Our local store that you and I, that's closest to you and I, doesn't do that. None of them do, that we go to. But there's a lot of stores that don't care at all out there, right? You'll see it often because people will post pictures on Facebook groups I got all my stuff. And I always find that super obnoxious. It's okay, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. You know what I mean? I know people want to be yeah, I got my stuff, but also yeah, okay. You know what I mean? I don't, that's not super newsworthy to me. And then there's always comments, how did you get your stuff early? It's come on, guys. Is this your first rodeo? Either they ordered it from GW and then they just got it shipped early, which happens all the time, or they got it from their local store and it also just got it early, because a lot of people, it seems more prevalent in the UK. Am I wrong? It seems like most people posting like that are usually in the UK, but
I could see that being the case, because that'd be the soonest that stores would be getting.
That's true.
Oh, actually, that's not necessarily true. If there's a distribution network in the US and they already have the models and it's just being shipped out,
yeah,
you never know.
It's probably less late in the UK than anywhere else, and therefore the most access to that, right?
I wonder if the plastic is still warm when you get it in the box. Also, Alex says, I also want the app to only update on the day of release and not just randomly lock me out before I can legally have the book. That's the hip way of applauding for someone.
It sounded so bad. It didn't sound like a snap at all.
How's that? Is that okay? No? Okay, doesn't matter. That was rough. Especially this weekend, I know people felt it because at Kipper's, not only were they not using the new Stormcast book, but the Stormcast book didn't actually even release until probably went like midway into when Kippers was starting. And on the Thursday, the app updated and locked all the Stormcast players out of viewing all their war scrolls and stuff. And it's just like, why? Like, why is that okay?
Yeah,
because you have like
shouldn't be.
minimum,
Yeah,
assuming no delays whatsoever, which as we saw there were, you have minimum 3 days of someone not being able to access their rules. And if they're going to a tournament or something like that, that's awful, right? Like all of a sudden someone can't reference anything. Let's say you schedule a game with your friends or something like that and you need to reference things. Like if you don't have the forethought to like download the PDFs and whatnot, it's going to be a major pain in the ass. So it's, sorry to excuse my French, but like it's still,
no, I mean,
yeah, that's really bad. And that's happened for both Skaven and Stormcast now.
Yep.
So
they've been doing it early and there is no reason to do it early.
Yeah, like scheduling launches for
well, what tournament is going to use it like the day of it coming out? No one's going to do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So who are you?
I don't know. I mean, even if they do, it is possible to schedule the launch of it, or not even a launch, actually schedule an update for like a weekend or something. You don't have to be present for that. Unless maybe whatever company is managing this app wants to have at least 1 weekday after they update something to be able to hot fix just in case something goes wrong. But it's like they don't like there's other problems in the app already. Like
that's true.
It's not like that seems to have stopped them anyway. So yeah, that's pretty crappy.
It is, and it's like, I mean, like I have mine set to like update manually, but I don't know. I'm you know, like why should anyone have to do that? Just you know, like how much money do we have to give you to just like have things work, please? Right?
Yeah. It's like, how many times are you going to lock me out of something that I have no possible way of actually fixing?
Like, yeah, exactly.
Like with the whole Warhammer Plus thing in Canada, and then like BP said, you don't get your code until you buy the book. And if you don't have the book, then you can't use the app, basically. So if the app updates, it's just like your SOL before the books could even possibly be bought. And it's dumb.
And then there's remember like the special edition that comes out in like the army sets. You get the book ahead of time, like usually like a month or two in advance, and you can't use the code in there. So yeah.
Yep. Good times.
The paywall thing is a terrible idea to begin with, but locking people out before they could buy is next level dumb. Like at this point, just charge me a crappy monthly sub for it all. Like we've been talking about this so much, and like honestly, I'm not the biggest proponent of it. Like you, Eric, like a lot of people that are much more into like tournament play care a lot more about that than I do. Like I probably wouldn't subscribe unless it was very reasonable. But that's still a bunch of money that they'd get out of me even, you know what I mean? Like let's say it was quite cheap, then that's still money that they'd be getting from me that they're not going to get. Like I'm never going to buy the Stormcast book. Like I know a lot of Stormcast and Skaven players that are like, I'm not buying a book that isn't like, that has so few new rules. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to, get it by other means. And like on top of that, they've created like this system where people are like, they've created this bad relationship now where people are like angry about it too. Right. I feel like it's just the worst situation.
And with and like with things like a subscription, it's like software is essentially free. I mean, there's like server costs and whatnot and development costs, but you don't have a book that's going to sit on a shelf and then become worthless despite you spending X amount of dollars manufacturing and shipping it to a store. So there's a lot of people that, like you said, otherwise wouldn't have bought a book anyway, that are just going to be paying for this. And it costs them almost nothing in comparison to having books, fill up recycling bins at the end of an edition. So
exactly.
It's
and like what if they even did like okay, we're gonna ship the books ahead of time, and then but the release date on the app so like if you're paying the monthly subscription, you'll just get it on release day, right? But everyone else, yeah, you might get it early, you know? And then it's like, okay, well, I might get the book then. You know, that'll entice some people into getting it that weren't going to get it otherwise. And a lot of other people will just be like, you know, like a lot, like how many subscription services, like I just recently did like a huge culling of my subscription services because I wasn't using them. Like Disney Plus, like I hadn't looked at it in months. You know what I mean? I was just like, what was I doing? What was I thinking? But like that kind of thing, right? How many things do you subscribe to that where you just kind of forget about it? You know, the only thing that like I will, you know, very unlikely, I'm very, what's the word? Like I don't want to give up is Amazon Prime because it's just like, it's not just a video service. Obviously it's like, it's, you know, it does a lot. And the other thing is actually Audible. I use Audible. I've got a bunch of credits now and I love it so much. You know, I like to have a few credits because like if I discover a new series, you know what I mean? Then I can grab a bunch of them and then, yeah, save them up. But like that's money that they'd be getting every month from people where they wouldn't. So yeah. PS Peeps, I got an email for a voucher from GW. One yesterday since my first purchase on their new website. The email is legit. Voucher is good. What is it, like a voucher for a massage, Beefy? What'd you get there, buddy? What'd you get? The other acceptable to me option would be to put the code in with the cards. Then you can essentially just get normal and digital cards for one price. That's a great idea.
I like that idea. Yeah. Because some people will just buy the cards only for their rules, I guess.
Right.
Which is totally fair. Like, I mean, I appreciate lore, but if I had the option, I would probably just buy like a rules pack.
Right.
Especially if it was cheaper. That'd be nice.
Well, because, and for you too, it's less to lug around at a tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and as well, like when you're at a tournament, well, first of all, no one is probably pulling out their like physical books anymore. You're probably just looking at the app, both of you, if possible. Right. Otherwise, the TO is going to be looking at an app. But if I were to look at a book, yeah, it would be like, okay, lore, and like flipping through like all of these things that are not necessary for the context of like the tournament scene. But yeah, I would much rather just have like easy access rules, especially in the form of cards where you can selectively take out exactly what you need instead of having to flip back and forth between pages.
That makes sense. Question for you, Carson. When Slaves to Darkness comes out, when Ogres comes out, are you planning on getting the Gamer Edition or are you planning on just getting something?
I'm probably not going to buy the books. I mean,
that's crazy.
I say that from I'm kind of from like a privileged perspective of I am a TO and I have the TO program thing, so I get the codes anyway.
Okay. Then scrap
that changes things a lot.
It really does. So you're just going to buy the cards?
Maybe. I might not even buy the card. I honestly, like, if I can, to me, that's just kind of waste because if I don't have to, I won't.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy. Okay. What if you were not a TO and you were not getting digital stuff?
The Gamer Edition is like just a smaller book and also cards, right? But it's more expensive.
It's paperback. You get the it's like a paperback version, and it's not as broad either. It's smaller.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was Ledivicus that took a picture of the things next to each other, and then you get the War Scroll cards, and you get like the spell lore and all that other stuff that should be in the regular cards, but is not for some reason.
What's the price difference?
So it's $70 for a book now, Canadian. And I don't remember what the War Scroll cards were. I want to say $35-ish. We can look it up. Yep. And then, oh no, wait. I think it was like ended up being about $10 more to get both. And then the Gamers Edition was like $100.
Okay.
Wait,
that's a lot. I probably would get a normal book.
Just get a normal book and no cards.
Yeah, just because I find that I will use the cards like You have to think like I'm like for someone like me, I'm probably not most people who play Age of Sigmar just because like if I'm gonna get into an army, I'm gonna get like 20 to 30 reps in with that army before even going to a tournament with it.
Right.
And I've just memorized the war scrolls at that point. And then it's only like really specific rules interactions that come up. And it's like those cards are just not really useful to me anymore.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just I would just get the book, which is the cheapest option, and then just get the what's it called? Just put the code in and then only use the app at that point.
I'm not seeing it on the website. It says the battle tome is 70. Beefy says it's I'll trust in Beefy. He says it's $5 cheaper than buying the book, than buying the cards and regular book. So it's only $5 cheaper than buying. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was like, I like the cards, you know, in like before, like in like 2019, I would buy the cards. Right. And I was off the cards pretty much right away, especially in 3rd edition. Cause like very little change in the Skaven 2nd to 3rd edition, book. But I liked having them there as a quick reference. You know what I mean? You know, it's like sometimes it was just like, oh, was this hitting on 4s? You know, it's not a unit I always take. Skaven has got a deep book. Or it would be like, you know, like I would tell someone an ability and they're just like, there's no way the Warp Lightning Vortex does all of that. I'm like, here's the card. You know what I mean? And like, it's very easy.
Yeah.
But
I've just had times at tournaments where like I brought cards for like the ogres. Because I bought both the 2nd edition and the 3rd edition cards for ogres.
Yeah.
And I would offer I would tell them how something works, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna check that real quick," and they'll, you know, open their phone, and then I'm like, "Here, I have the cards," and they're like, "No, thank you," and they go and look at the app anyway, and I'm just like, "All right," like that's happened multiple times to me, just because you know, as soon as the first battle scroll comes out, you can't trust that it's not stale information.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Especially, I mean, because like nowadays, first of all, by the way, the cards back in the day were way cheaper. So it was like a much better deal. They are way more expensive than they used to be. But like, so now the app, we got the app. And so what you're saying totally makes sense. Do you, like, you're an Ogres player primarily. Like, you really only had one tournament army for a very long time. Do you think that like it might be worth it now to buy the cards so you can show your opponent, because they're not going to have access to your rules?
Well, I'll have access and I'll just show them my phone.
That's true.
There's
so that.
I'm fine with that. Like I recognize it's going to get weird as soon as like
it is
2 players who are not TOs have to just kind of trust each other on their rules.
Right.
It's gonna suck. Just because like all of a sudden I could see there being situations where like a TO is called over not because there's a rules dispute and how to interpret a rule, but just to find out what the rule actually is.
Right.
And that's just gonna be a huge time waster. So I'm not a fan of that for that reason.
Yeah. Ladivia says, if I could rewind on Skaven, I'd totally have done a gamer edition, but alas, I did not do that. You know, the thing that's annoying for me is that I spent the $5 more and I'm actually kind of getting less, unless you really care about hardback. But like, and I only really care about hardback for Skaven, so I'm not regretting it. My main issue is like, I paid more money. Why can't I get the War Scroll cards that includes my allegiance abilities and spells and stuff? Like, that's what actually, to be honest, that's what sticks in my craw more than almost anything they've done. It's just like, you're giving it to the gamer edition one. Like, if I buy everything at full price, why am I not getting the best experience, the most stuff? Yeah. It super annoys me, by the way, that I'm getting the spearhead cards. There's like 10 of them in there. And who are those for? I don't know. You know. But Anyway, sorry. That turned into a little bit of a rant. It's just kind of, it was just something that was rolling around the back of my head. Like, I wonder what, wonder what people think about it. Because obviously, like, to be honest, I've been buying less Games Workshop product on average until Skaven came out. I've been actually buying a lot less Games Workshop product in the last year. Or probably, oh no, not the year before that. We had Seraphon, and I went a little nuts with.
I feel like you've been going pretty strong with buying Warhammer stuff, but
the problem too is it's a lot of it's for the channel. It's like like I didn't buy that much FEC. I ended up with a decent amount, but I found some like really really good deals and stuff like that. People like not knowing that like discounting a start collecting set that had like literally almost every FEC model that was ever made. But like I got FEC for the channel because no one locally played them. No one had an army that was painted and could come on and play them. And I realized at one point we didn't have a single battle report since I made the channel over 3 years ago that had FEC at all in it. I was just like, oh man, we should have FEC. They're popular and whatnot. So anyway, that's sort of there is that aspect to it. But like what would I have bought? Yeah, I'm always going pretty strong. I mean, like I did buy a Zeech army at one point, but I've since sold it. I mean, like I used to collect 40K too. Like compared to like I mean. That's fair enough. But like, I mean, until Skaven came out though, like what did I buy? Recently, like I bought Usharan and I bought a few models when the FEC thing came out, but not that much. It was mostly made from like insane deals on start collecting sets. And that was almost a year ago that I bought that stuff too. Actually it was about a year ago. Yeah. That I got the FEC stuff. Yeah, but like I meant in like 2024, like hardly anything until Skaven came out.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same for me. Like I just recently, actually, when I went to Richmond Rural this weekend, I bought some Varangard, some Legionnaires, and Forbidden Power, and that's probably like the most I've spent on Warhammer in a long time, like a really long time. And it wasn't that much. Like it was just three boxes of stuff. And it just made me realize that I haven't been buying things for quite a while. I've just kind of been painting what I have, and then maybe buying like one or two things here and there.
Right.
But yeah,
I've mostly been buying like hobby stuff, like Pro Acryl has gotten a lot of my money. What else? Some contrast paints. But yeah, like most of my money's actually not been going into the hobby as much lately. Actually, by the way, so I saw a couple of interesting things. Beefy said the Gamer Edition does have lore, but not all of the lore. And the Gamer Editions are sold out. The Gamer Editions, for some reason, they're doing it as like a temporary thing, it looks like. So they're just making them, and then it's like when we sold out, they're gone forever, right? And then Keith says Australia Battle Tome is $98. Cards are $55. What? And the Gamer Edition is $140. Ugh. And then this was the thing that I actually wanted to bring up. Ledificus, you're my hero. He says I emailed GW and asked for my extra 11 cards. I think he's referring to the allegiance abilities and spells and stuff like that and prayers. And he says they told me politely to stuff it. I feel like I'm going to do the same thing now, though. Just like, wait, why are you getting like more in the cheaper version? Like, shouldn't this be the premium edition? Yeah. Anyway, Keith says Necron's army, Tyranid's army, Solar Auxilia army. That's like humans and knights and stuff. I think for Horus Heresy. Cities of Sigmar, Humi's army. I think I am covered for supporting GW for several years at least. Yeah, like for me too, like it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I want to support them. It's not like that. It's just like if they have something I have to buy, then I'll buy it. And if they don't, then I definitely won't. Like, if I can get away with not buying something, I'd much prefer that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, I don't feel like I owe anything to GW, but it's more so actually the friendly local gaming stores. Like whenever they host people for games and stuff, that's when that's the only time I've ever felt like I should buy something to like make it worth them providing the space for me, right?
There's a very old expression in the community, and it's pay where you play. If you're playing in the store, they need to keep the lights on. If you want to keep a place where you can actually play, you have to, spend money in the store. Assuming they don't charge you for playing in the store, which is actually, to me, is honestly legitimate. It's just like, I mean, it doesn't feel good, I'm sure, for them, but anyway, yeah. You gotta pay where you play, man. That's a great point. I feel like, to be honestly, I think if anything, Games Workshop is creating this, like, they're kind of almost like, with the way they're changing the app and doing all these things, it feels like they're actually kind of creating the opposite attitude. Not in me. I'm not like that. I really am not. But it feels like they are creating that attitude in a lot of people. Like, well, screw you. Like, you're doing this like underhanded thing. Like, I'll just pirate it. I'll just do whatever. And that actually isn't the right answer. But by the same token, it's like what we were just talking about is like, if there's no consequence to them, why would they change? It's like back in what was it? 8th edition? Yeah, 8th edition Warhammer 40K. There were like some pretty wonky rules, right? And sorry, one second. My mouth was so dry. The ITC guys, they made their own rules. And everyone was using them, including me, including our friends. No one was playing with the official rules anymore because they were a little bit off. Everyone was playing, the first story of a ruin you couldn't see through, and like all these other things, right? And so, and then they brought those guys in and they started making some of the rules for 40K, and everything was better, but they didn't like other people using not official rules, right? And that's what forced them to change. So, and I'm not saying like people should pirate. I'm saying unequivocally that they shouldn't pirate it, right? But like, how can we, teach them how to treat us? Like, what else are people supposed to do? Just not play is an option, obviously. Not play, not buy their games. But they've really created a powerful FOMO kind of going on. And that's if you feel that way. If you don't feel that way, then buy away. Like, I'm not telling anyone not to buy, like I said, I buy the stuff that I feel like I feel strongly compelled to, like Skaven. I bought a lot of Skaven.
Yeah, I feel like I've been like heavily infected by the FOMO cycle from time to time a long time ago, like back when like Necrons and Tyranids, or when I was playing those armies in 40K. I remember, I think it was when I had like my first job out of high school. I was just like, I've got so much money now, I'm gonna keep buying Necrons, and I ended up buying like 5 night sites. And I don't even think you could legally field that many at that time. I was like, I just think they're cool. I like croissants. And and I would just keep doing that, and I was spending, hundreds and hundreds of, over thousands of dollars just on this stuff like every week, just because it was, I don't know, it was like addictive, buying more things. And then you just realize you have this massive pile of shame that you can never possibly get through. And you're just, I don't fault anyone for playing with gray plastic, but it doesn't feel good from my end whenever I do it. I'm like, I like to play with painted models. So I think that's kind of what caused me to chill out over a while, especially with my AOS armies. I've been taking a bit more time painting them. So
they look great though.
Thank you.
Have you ever seen those pictures of people? They're like, this is my Tyranid army, or this is my Seraphon army. I just saw one of a Tyranid army, and the table was, I think, 8x4. It wasn't even like a 6x4 table. It was an 8x4 table, completely covered in Tyranids. You could, and it's so far back you can't even see what most things are, other than like a Hierophant and like a Harridan in the background, because they're so big. Obviously, they're Bio-Titans and whatnot. But it's just chock-a-block. And I think that's awesome. Everything was painted. The whole army was totally painted, and it was a pretty cool scheme too. And I was just like, man, that person, that's like me and my Skaven, kind of like, you know, I'm getting close to where I could do something similar, you know, and I'm just like, you know, that's so awesome. Like they found that army, their one true love. Like I've always been like, obviously Skaven are my one true love. If I could only play one army, it would obviously be Skaven. But I am a bit of like an eclectic kind of person. Like, and I don't even like to paint something for too long. I like, you know, Skaven's the only thing I can just pretty much perpetually paint, but like, I don't want to only paint them. I want to paint something different every now and again. So yeah, I kind of wish I was that kind of person though, you know, just like Tyranids are my thing, man. If I'm not playing Tyranids, I'm not living, you know, it's like,
yeah. Like, I've just finished painting my 900th Termagant.
Yeah.
And you like stare over at the local game store, just like, I wonder if they got more Termagants in.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like me with my clan rats, but like, it's, you know, like there's several generations of Termagants too, right? There's metal Termagants, and then there is like the last edition Termagant. I mean, there's way more than that, obviously. And now we've got new Termagants, and they've got all sorts of other, you know, vaguely, what's the word? Penile shaped guns and whatnot. Various shapes and sizes. Something for everyone.
Really leaning into the H.R. Geiger inspiration. Yeah.
They really are. Yeah.
Like, exactly. This guy's kind of horny.
Well, like, okay, this is definitely not the. Do you know? We probably had this conversation in the past.
We've never conversed in the past, actually.
Oh, must have been my imagination.
I'm not here, Rob. Wake up. Wake up.
Oh man. Okay. I'm trying to find like an official picture. Here we go. Geez, where is it? It's so bright. So much white. Ugh. Okay, there we go. Do people know the lore behind the Exocrine? Do you know the lore behind the Exocrine? The Exocrine, which I have on screen right now, and I know you know what it looks like because you played.
I'm aware. Yep.
It kind of looks like a giant penis gun, a little bit, right?
A little bit. Yeah, it looks like a little bit like when your dog gets excited.
Exactly. Okay, maybe a little VD, you know, on the top there. I'm not really sure what's going on, but the interesting thing about the Exocrine, Carson, is that it's not one organism, but two. Okay, so what we see as the first head, I guess I'll call it, the one with the traditionally Tyranid-shaped head with the little chitin on top of his forehead and whatnot, that's not the brains of the outfit. That's just the driver. The brains of the outfit is the gun. And I've always thought this has got to be some kind of metaphor for guys being driven, who are basically controlled by their penises. And why is just the gun part like throbbing red, whereas everything else is a normal Leviathan paint scheme. And just that there is nothing else. You can look it up. Look up Leviathan paint schemes and whatnot. There's nothing else that's painted red in the official GW art. Oh, except for the Red Terror. But I think that's Behemoth, right? I think that's a different. I think that's from
I'm
a
not
different.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, it's definitely a penis thing. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about the Exocrine.
You're welcome.
I'm going to leave
Thank
it
you
up.
for giving it.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave it up because I've got nothing better to show. Actually, no. Sure. People are going to think this is a 40K podcast.
Ooh, yuck.
Ugh, gross. What can we put up, everyone? That model reminds me of a very happy alien puppy. Exactly. Ludivicus says, I buy in spurts. Very little for a long while, and then suddenly something like Skaven releases, and I just buy it all. Then back to being miserly. Yeah. I think that's a good way of doing it. For me, I have to and I've said this way too many times, but I have to build as I paint. Otherwise, it gets too intimidating for me, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go collect something else now, and then it gets very dangerous. So yeah, but
yeah, I used to get excited about a bunch of the new releases, and then for a while I owned Lumineth, but
that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I just realized that I've realized how slow I paint things and how upset I get when I have half finished painting projects, and I'm just like, nope, we're doing a cull. Yeah. And if one of my main armies, so basically at this point just ogres or slaves, if one of them gets a big release, I'll buy into it 100%. But I've just brick walled everything else up to this point, it feels like.
That's true. Yeah. No, that's, man, I wish I could be more like you and that Tyranid guy and just be happy. You know what I mean? But
I didn't say I was happy.
Oh, that's true.
I just told you the state of the matter.
That's true.
I never said anything about being happy.
That's fair. Yeah.
Deeply not. No. That's a whole other thing, though.
That's true. That's another topic, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, the topic of next week's stream. Yeah.
Is
why am I so sad? Yeah. I mean, yeah, Feast of Blades.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was your idea, by the way. We were going to do the Stormcast one next week, but you said you wanted to do, or we were going to do it this week and then next week, but you said you want to do Feast of Blades, which is a local tournament.
Yeah, it's a local tournament in Bremerton, which is
okay, in Washington,
west of Seattle, which sounds weird because Seattle's a coastal city. But it's you have to go down and around, or you take a ferry across. But yeah, it's. The reason why I thought it'd be a good idea to do the Stormcast one 2 weeks from now instead of next week is because next week it'd be nice to do a list review for Feast of Blades, but also it'd be nice if we had one recent tournament in memory where we could actually see how the new Stormcast did.
That's true. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and that way it's not just here's what we think about the new book. It's just here's what we witnessed for the new book. Right. And we've gotten some reps in, and I think Stark is going to be going to that tournament, so he'll have 5.
I'm assuming that new Stormcast are usable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he'll have, I think, 5 tournament games under his belt.
Sick. Because don't forget, Stormcast or a lot of tournaments don't let you use the new book until they have an FAQ. So, not a lot to ask about though, because they're pretty much reprints of the indexes with new war scrolls. So yeah. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so similar, I think it's much less of a big deal. So
yeah.
Not a problem. Alex says, I refuse to be happy with one army. I am Slaanesh now. Oh, good. Yeah. And what are you going to be tomorrow? Huh?
You know what though? Deepkin, Slaanesh, all these armies suit Alex very well. They're fast and they're fighty and technical. Although Iron Jaws is his one true love, and they were, simpler. Obviously, that's kind of their appeal. I would love to get into Iron Jaws just to have a nice, straightforward army. I know they're not great for me right now, or they're not great right now in general. Obviously, I was talking to Alex about it. I don't know why I left up just a blank Google page. Oh, that's why. Because that's so bright and awful. I was just talking to him about Iron Jaws, and he's just I really just can't recommend anyone get into this army right now. And I was I'm not competitive. I'm just wondering how it functions. Does mixed arms work? And he's just kind of oh, this is, and he's kind of giving me the lay of the land. But
that's my one gripe with the edition right now is that mixed arms kind of doesn't work in any army almost.
Yeah.
There's a couple that it does, but mixed arms is by far my favorite way to play the game, and it doesn't exist anywhere anymore except in Cities of Sigmar, I guess. But I don't want to completely start an army from the ground up just because of that now.
I think that's because of how the sub factions are currently working. It's like, Skaven's like, do you like Mulder? Well, then we've got the sub faction for you, and this is all you should play because otherwise you're not getting any advantage out of it, right? Whereas like stuff like Night Haunt, like if people are spamming a unit that's too good, that's just an issue of points, right? But if it's just like, well, this is all we can use if we want to actually use our sub faction, then it kind of becomes a different matter. Yeah, it's funny because it's like when we were in 3rd edition and you were using very mixed arms for ogres, right? And everyone was kind of saying like, yeah, that's clearly like their mission statement for AOS 4 is everyone's like ogres, right? We all said this. All the channels said this, right? And I mean, I kind of didn't know because I was kind of saying like, I was kind of looking at it from the Skaven perspective in a lot of ways where I'm just kind of like, well, that's not true for everyone, but I think it's true for a lot less people than we kind of thought, right? Like, what are the factions that like you can just take whatever and your sub allegiance works for the popular sub factions? Yeah. Stormcast? What is Stormcast? Yeah.
No, Stormcast. No, it was Stormcast because well, I don't know. Like with Stormcast, like if you have your Vanguard wing, you're leading into your teleports with your Vanguard units. Yeah. There's the Ruination Chamber one, which I think is the 5-up board. I always mess that up. Maybe it's Extremists. I can't remember.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right. I see. So Stormcast, no. Skaven, definitely not. Skaven's one of the worst ones for that.
I actually think it's... So in the last edition, you were kind of like sort of punished for taking more than 3 heroes because of the whole 1-drop thing.
In the last edition?
Yeah, in the last edition, if you had more than 3 heroes, then you couldn't be a 1-drop, right? Because you had to do the
right, because of how the
yeah. This edition, it seems like kind of the sweet spot is 2 drops, where if you can be at 2 drops, you're at least contending to go to get the priority off deployment, and because of that, almost like a lot of the utility in the game is tied to heroes. And when you have utility tied to heroes and you also have this contention for drops that are tied to heroes too, what you kind of sacrifice is utility when you're trying to win the drop war, because it's more important than a little bit of utility later in the game. And if you have less utility, then you're kind of relying on spam instead. Like this is a very efficient war scroll, i.e. Gluttons, Cavalos, Death Riders, Vanguard Chosen, Rock Guts, like you name it, right? Hex Wraiths. And I think that they unintentionally created a system that encourages just spamming very efficient war scrolls as opposed to bringing these like utility heroes. Not that there's a lot of them anyway, but when you're like balancing, do I want this utility or do I want less drops? The answer is almost always less drops, because sometimes getting double turned is a death sentence for some armies, or against some armies it's a death sentence. So
that's interesting. But like, now, do you think that? How much of that do you think though is the sub factions though?
I don't think that matters as much. Like some armies don't have any consequential sub factions at all. Like I've been swapping to Slaves to Darkness and like God's Wrath Warband, which is like the one that almost everyone takes. Everyone takes it because it's not like literally useless. It's just sometimes it does something kind of. It's basically like you can poop on objectives, and then there's 2 upbeat 3 mortals to the ones on. It's only on your turn to stuff that's on objectives, and you're like, cool.
Right.
I guess. Like, neat.
Yeah.
Whereas there's some armies that have, like, much more impactful sub-factions, like Night Haunt, for instance.
Yes, for sure. But the thing about that, though, too, is that's not... That sub-faction, though, isn't just for X units in your army, either. Right?
No, it's not.
So...
Yeah.
So that's really nice. That's not actually an army with a sub-faction that's been divided up into, like... Either you only get it on these units. Like, I feel like it doesn't, like, for Scryer, for example, like how many shooting units are you realistically going to bring in Scryer? You know, because you need
because the cap is 3.
Yeah, well, yeah, you only get it on 3 per turn, but like I'm on most of my armies, I'm only bringing 2 units anyway. I'm bringing like, you know, a unit of rattling guns and a unit of, well, sometimes rattling guns, but that's like what? That's 600 points. If I reinforce both units, it's like 600 points, right? Or maybe a little bit more depending on what the unit is, but like the point is that like a lot of it doesn't apply to it anyway, and you need chaff, you need, you know, you can't just bring shooting units, right? So it almost doesn't affect Scryer and stuff as much, but it's like if you want to do Molder, right? You're highly encouraged to bring Rat Ogres and Storm Fiends and very little else because they're expensive units, you know? Or Trolls. They've gone up. Someone was saying in the chat, true. I mean, just from a sub-faction point of view, now Rock Guts have gone up. You get a bit of them. You get a bit of Squigs and Goblins, like Heroes and Goblin-Palooza and stuff like that. Yeah, I added the stuff like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it feels like there's some armies that are at a point where they've been adjusted somewhat, and GW seems to want people to be running them like a little bit more mixed arms, but there's still those problem armies in the game where that's just not the case. And when you have like the overwhelming force of some of these problem armies, it just gets a little depressing, I guess, from like a matchup standpoint.
What are the problem armies other than Night Hunt? Because that's the boogeyman right now.
Yeah, Lumineth, really, really good. Tzeentch is really, really good.
Right. Why is Tzeentch good?
Tzeentch will just throw debuffs at you like crazy, and they're extremely good at messing with your battle plans. Just because with their Destiny dice, there's a really good chance they can just auto-teleport something. So let's say you're just like, turn 1, I'm going to do take the flanks. And they go, boop, and they put a big unit of horrors that you can't possibly kill on one of the flanks that blocks you from actually towing over the line. And then all of a sudden you can't score your tactic. Yeah. But I am interested to see like how things are shaking out more after this battle scroll, because truth be told, I haven't played a tournament yet after it. And I'm not being doom and gloom. I'm trying not to anyway. Like
all doom and gloom Carson.
Yeah. Does Be'lakor with Varangard spam qualify? Yeah. If someone's running 12 Varangard, I would consider that spam. That's
definitely
1,200 points of your army is one war scroll. That's pretty big. Like
that's a lot. That's definitely spam. Agreed.
Yeah. I just wish that like more of like the foot heroes and whatnot could be included in other regiments, and that also they had some form of utility that they served for the army.
Yes.
Because it sucks, like this Chaos Lord that I painted up was actually just for Spearhead, basically. Because the only thing that he really gives is like fight sequencing, kind of. And it's like he's 120 points. Chaos Sorcerer Lord is 120 points. And the Chaos Sorcerer Lord gets me a potential 5 of ward on a unit, and he's a caster. So it's like I'm going to do that. Every time I'm going to pick that instead.
It sucks. And I mean, like, and you are obviously of the opinion that drops matter a lot.
Yeah.
And
well, especially because I'm swapping to Slaves to Darkness a little bit. You know, that Slaves is one of the, I'd say problem armies, but Slaves is one of the armies that very few armies can survive a double turn from. And so sometimes it's just like, if I can beat you in this one roll-off, is the game just over? And if I'm winning the drop count every single time, and there are Slaves to Darkness lists that are one drop, it creates a lot of problems for people.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then like, okay, but like what if are there armies then that don't care about drops?
I think there's armies that care less. Like,
but you as a player always definitely lean into or heavily or thinking about drops.
Me as a player, I like to be able to dictate the flow of the battle, the cadence of the game. Yeah. Maybe Soulblight doesn't care as much about drops. I would say like most control armies tend not to care as much. I think it's more so like an opportunity cost, where you have some armies that can't really take advantage of a double. Like Tzeentch, ideally, is never doubling you. They're just keeping the potential of doubling you so that you can't double them. Right. That's the thing that's more important, because Tzeentch isn't going to table you. Tzeentch is going to just mess with your plans the entire game and just debuff you to death. They're gonna blue which is very it's very thematic, you know.
It's true.
Yeah, and there's some armies that like don't care about scoring at the start of the game. Like old Huracan, it was like it's okay to go down for a little bit, and then you catch up later in the game after you've like chipped everyone away, and you can kind of take the rest of the board back. So, yeah, Alex says, IJ, you're gonna lose anyway. Might as well make as many heroes as heroes as you want. Yeah, fair enough.
I was gonna literally bring it up because like I was building some lists for fun for Ironjaws. And yeah, I had like 4 heroes in there, and I was just kind of going like, I mean, if I'm gonna play Ironjaws, I want to have fun and I want to bring the units that I want. So here we go, four heroes it is. So 4 drops. But like, I also feel like if you're going into a tournament, and if you're gonna be 3 drops, I feel like you might as well almost be 4. Because it's just like you might as well not care anymore is what I'm trying to say. Because people who care about drops are 2 drops or less, right? If you're 3 drops, you probably don't care. And then even then, you're 50-50 on whether you're determining it, right? So then, like, yeah, I don't know. This is kind of, I know no one's going to agree with me, but like this is kind of why I like the 40k way of just like drops don't determine who goes first, because then you get to just build an army on the merits of the army, and also deploy like you don't know who's going first, so you have to plan for going first and for going second. But that's what I like about that. But Beefy said, where'd it go? I thought it was Beefy. It's players and lists that prefer drops, not armies. I partially agree with that. I think there are some armies in general. Like I think in general, Skaven actually just doesn't really care. Like there probably are lists that care more, but
I actually think Skaven right now with the rattling gun spam.
Oh, I see. If you really care, yeah. I guess.
Like, I don't know. Normally, I would agree with you, and last edition I probably would too, but.
In last edition, it was 100% true. Like, no one cared. Yeah. Which was kind of funny because, like, in second edition, we cared super hard. Yeah, I guess if you're bringing, like, a heavy shooting army, then you really don't want to be doubled. And ideally, you would like to double them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But then, even then, like, what are you going to do, though? Like, you're going to, like, the lowest you could possibly be in a rattling gun army is 2 drops. Right?
Yeah.
So.
But I think you should aim for 2 drops, probably.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. Although, what's interesting is Mechrad doesn't. He's 3 drops or more in all of his lists.
Yeah, that's fair.
Partially because he brings a deceiver. Sorry, Mechrad. I couldn't help myself. I love you, buddy.
Yeah. Stark. So Stark says last edition people totally cared about drops. They definitely did. I think what we're saying is that Skaven specifically cared less about drops.
Care. Yeah. You can ask any of the really competitive people.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yep.
You like these ideas?
Chris Bulk says, so after playing 4th Ed for a bit, what does everyone think about the double? I know people don't like it in 3rd. I think people liked it in 3rd. I think plenty of people did. But
it's kind of a loaded question. Sorry, who said that?
Chris.
Oh, Chris. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
No, there was no without the avatar. I'm a Chris fan, both my cousin and Chris Bulk.
From what I've seen, I think people I think the double is probably in the best spot it has been right now. Ignoring actually even factoring in the balance of the game right now. I think that it's in a really good spot just because it's good. I almost wish. No, actually, never mind. I was going to say, I almost wish there was some extra punishment for giving someone a double. Not as much as they can't score a battle tactic, but maybe they have 1 less CP or something like that.
Ooh.
But if you're choosing to give them a double anyway, it's it sucks to suck, right? You chose to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, at what point are you not punished for making the decisions leading up to this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
okay,
like that if you choose to take a double, you don't get to score a tactic. That's like actually something that people have to factor in now, right? And
yeah,
especially in a teams format, I think it's interesting because it's like no longer is it I'm just going to table this person and win. It's like maybe me taking a double changes this game from a 15-5 to a 14-6. And that's 2 less point difference for my team, right? That could be a really big deal.
Or for a tournament, like if there's going to be multiple 5-0s or something, like that might even be a factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'll say too about the double too is like I've been, like I've through making this channel, even before to a certain extent, but especially after making this channel, I've been a person who unfortunately will kind of go on to Facebook and look at these things. And I think that like if you are doing that, Chris, there's a tendency to kind of see the shitheads, essentially the people who are just like, oh, Age of Sigmar sucks because it has the double. There's still a lot of that out there, and a lot of them are like, it's another video from I think Lords of War, whatever it's called, their YouTube channel. They talked about like Age of Sigmar versus the old fantasy players. But there's a lot. There's still that attitude out there. I met someone in the store at the start of 3rd edition, and they literally said, I was like, "Are you going to play Age of Sigmar 3?" It wasn't out at that point. It was just about to come out. It was like out the next week or two. And he said, "No, I'm not going to play Age of Sigmar 3. That's a baby game. They have like double turns." And I'm just like, oh God, like, okay, so first of all, right? And I just started like talking, you know what I mean? And like, and then like after like I started talking to them, they're just like, well, I haven't played it since 1st edition. And it's like, then why are you saying this? But it's still just like what people do. It's like, this Age of Shitmar mentality or whatever. It's like they don't understand. Like, if you watch, actually, what's interesting too is like the same guys, Lords of War Gaming and Guerrilla Miniature Games. A lot of these channels, most of these channels that are playing everything on their channel, right? Are talking about everything, playing everything, or they own a store, whatever. They all say Age of Sigmar is their favorite game. All of them, including Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Gaming, which is a huge channel, right? And it's my favorite game too. I think it is the best designed game, and I think exactly what Carson said is true. And as other people have echoed in the chat, I think that the double is in the best place it's literally ever been. It's awesome. And at one point I changed. I used to be like, well, the reason I like it, blah, 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 blah. And I would kind of defend it. And now my attitude is the opposite. My attitude is like, if you don't get why the double is cool, that's on you. It's not on me. Like, you know what I mean? You should be embarrassed, not me. That's kind of what I say, It's not, Tom. He just said it. He just said that Age of Sigmar is his favorite game. Look up the last interview, I think it was, with the guy. You know how they do those videos where it's like, I forget what it's called, Inside the Industry or something like that? They both said it's my favorite game right now. Yeah. Although they are both fans of Infinity. They were actually also both talking about how, like, it just sucks to have metal miniatures. It's like it's like a huge thing where they're just like you got metal miniatures, like, sorry, I'm out. Like, just from the get-go. Yeah. He was on the live stream yesterday and he said Infinity? Well, okay. Well, I guess he's flip-flopped a little bit. But yeah, this like that interview was from like not that long ago. But yeah, anyway, I'd have to see it. But the that's funny. That's super funny. I didn't watch. Did he do a live stream yesterday? Or are you on his Patreon? Maybe it's something I couldn't even see. Anyway, yeah, some kind of hindrance. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, they don't really have anything in Path to Glory. There's no downside.
I feel like at that point, though, if you're playing Path to Glory and like let's say you're playing like a more narrative campaign, it's totally acceptable just to be like, hey guys, do you want to just not have this mechanic?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that's so
no
true.
one's forcing you to do it. Like, it's,
You know what?
Every time I talk about balance and the double and stuff like that, it's always from a tournament perspective, like always from a competitive play perspective.
From 2,000
if you and your friends just agree that one thing is just not how you want to play something, and it's like a house rule, then you do you, right? Like, it's all just to have fun. So yeah,
there's a lot of people that do that, and a lot of those people are not playing, matched play, GHB. They're playing using the core rules or whatever. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's kind of one of the great things about this hobby, is that you're not beholden to, no offense to Carson, a developer somewhere who's going to like enforce you playing in the way that the game is designed. It's like you could like, you don't even need to use the all the war scrolls. You can use legends. Like, there's so many different parts of this game where there's just this social contract. Not on Patreon? Okay. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do watch older videos, because like I've been really going through and listening to I've got an audiobook that I'm absolutely loving right now, but like sometimes I just want a little bit of a break or whatnot. I don't want to consume the whole book in one go. So yeah, I started going down that rabbit hole of Guerrilla Miniature Games. Games is inside the studio, or whatever, inside the industry, or whatever he calls it. But yeah, sometimes you end up watching old videos and you're a little out of date, so I could be wrong. Yeah. Thanks, fellas. Infinity and AOS are my two favorite. Infinity fixes my sci-fi itch, and AOS fixes my fantasy. That's awesome. I have a couple of Infinity miniatures, but I've never played their game. But I'd be down. I'd actually be. That would kind of scratch another itch, and it would be like a totally different game. You know what I mean? Like, I know, because Carson doesn't want to play 40K, for example, because like it kind of gets in the way of your what's the word? Like, how would you say that? Like you feel like playing two games will kind of interfere with your tournament ability. Is that fair to say?
It's not even just that. It's just I put a lot of time into tournament play and stuff for AOS and prepping for that, and it's just like I enjoy doing it, and I feel like 40K is similar enough because it's the same company.
Yeah.
That it might get confusing, and it might just be like
iterate on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah,
but it's not even just that. It just might get like it's just too much, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I'm hard focused on this one thing, and I'm fine with that. So
right.
Yeah,
that's fair. But like, if it was something like Infinity where the rules are so different, it'd kind of just be like playing a video game or something, probably, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying something else. Another thing about like other miniatures games too is just like paint time too. I'm just like, I could be painting my these
That's
models.
True. That's true. And I totally agree with that. I was thinking like, because Infinity is like a skirmish game, so
right.
But yeah, no, you're not wrong there. We need a painter on the channel, I think, is what I'm hearing. We need to find someone who's good, who wants to paint. Oh, thanks for joining us, Matt. You're probably gone by now, but sorry, Matt. I may steal that from my gaming group. Is that anti-battle tactics? Yeah, it's a great idea. Getting doubles that put me down 2 points and way up on the board state. So becoming underdog feels like salt. Yeah, that's interesting. My interest in GMG fell off for a while when Ash kept winning games by playing rules wrong and having strange house rules. So, yeah, I don't watch any battle reports anymore after making my own. I mean, I will on occasion, but it's never AOS. If I'm doing, the only battle reports that I've watched for AOS in the recent time at all, and I mean actually watch the battle report, was because when Kenrick joined the channel, he made me and Carson watch entire battle reports to see what other people were doing and to help us kind of, like iterate essentially. But yeah, I don't watch his battle reports at all. I the only thing I was watching for like a little while, or back in the day, way back in the day before I started making them, I was really into tabletop tactics. I really liked them. But then B-Bone left, and I basically just have no interest in the channel almost at all anymore. I was watching Mountain Miniatures because I was starting to play a little bit of fantasy battles, like 8th edition and stuff like that. And he was playing that on the channel, and I actually really enjoyed that. That's Steve from Mini Wargaming. He has his own channel called Mountain Miniatures, but like not a lot of battle reports. So the only thing I watch from Guerrilla Miniature and like most other content creators is like people just talking about the game or whatever, Like I like what's it called, the painting phase too, with Peachy. Because like they talk about a lot of like the inside the industry stuff that you just don't get to hear about elsewhere. But yeah, I didn't know that about yeah, like I said, I don't really watch the battle reports. Paint time is huge. It's so true. Yeah, I am staring at a lot of miniatures. My brain can only focus on one game at a time. I can't play multiple games to the enjoyment level I'm looking for. Yeah, I think that's true of a lot of people. I mean, like there was at one point where I was playing, where I was playing 1 week with Carson and then 1 week, AOS, because our Carson used to only play 40K. And then I played one with our buddy Ryan with 40K, and I'd be going back and forth, and I'd be like, like keeping my 40K units outside of 3 inches and like doing crazy stuff that, but I didn't have a channel at the time, so it's like, who cares, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I have it.
What? Oh, sorry.
What's up?
Oh, I just underhanded Gene said Peachy left the painting phase. Got to jump on Jugs. I guess that's his new one. Peachy left the painting phase because of creative difference. Oh, that's too bad. I mean, like, I feel bad for saying this, but I don't even know the other guy's name. I was just watching for Peachy. I've got nothing against the guy, but I was watching for, for Peachy essentially. So that's crazy. Yeah. See, when was that? Cause I didn't even know that was a thing. Obviously when I tell you guys, I really don't watch a lot of content. It's true. I don't have time. Like I barely have time to, if I had, the time to do that, I would be making more content. Right.
I always find I watch content that has nothing to do with any of my like regular interests.
Yeah.
So like I just thinking today, I was just like, what was I watching while I was eating lunch? I was like, oh yeah, I was watching like the like Hawaii's logistics, basically. Like what's shipping like between Hawaii and the mainland and stuff like that.
Sounds interesting.
It's like just a documentary basically. Yeah. And I'm like, neat. And it has nothing to do with games. It has nothing to do with my work or AOS or anything like that. Like it's just completely tangential to my normal life.
Yeah, the main thing I listen to is audiobooks by A Country Freaking Mile, and then the next most common thing is probably Korean podcasts for listening comprehension. And if you're looking for recommendations, I have plenty of those. That's true. I hate watching myself, Keith. I used to have to edit myself, and my God, I was like, someone get this idiot off the screen. Ugh. I threw up in my mouth constantly. I had to keep a barf bag near the table.
That's why everything we do is live now.
Exactly. No editing involved. Keith Rogers, AOS and 40K. I laughed when one of my friends played for the double turn in 40K. You fella. He activated your trap card. Played a single game of 40K, and that was enough for me. I played Sigmar for the models and the community. Yeah, it's absolutely best community by far, I think. And I like 40K, and I really like, I like the world to a certain extent, but the models are, we've said this way too many times, but there's a lot of power armor in that game. Paladin is slightly different in 40K and AOS2. Yeah, that's so true. And it's constantly, anyway, yeah. Peach, Honest Rob, and Louise do Jugs. I'm not sure I totally understood that. Peach, Honest Rob. And Louise. I'm not sure. So Louise is from Rogue Hobbies, but I don't, and I'm assuming you're saying
Jugs is the new channel that they're
Jugs
doing
is the new
together.
channel. That's what I got from context, but I was just trying to understand do Jugs.
So they like host it essentially.
Oh, yeah. Peach, Honest Rob, and Louise do Jugs. I see. I thought you were like telling me to like watch it, like do Jugs, like you should do Jugs. And I'm like, yeah, I'll check it out for sure. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I used to watch Louise's content for painting stuff and whatnot. I don't watch a lot of painting content either recently, you know. Yeah. Did you guys hear about, or did you see anything about like the whole Golden Demon controversies that have been going around?
Was that the one where like the one that won was like a ultramarine intercessor essentially, and then
maybe?
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I saw that someone was comparing like there was like this Tau, or maybe it was Farsight, I think, who was like painted with like full on non-metallic metal chrome armor that was like reflecting the desert like in his armor and stuff like that, and then the winner ended up being like, to its credit, like a literally perfectly painted Primaris intercessor, like in the heavy metal style.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's tough.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting. I watched Marco Frassoni's thing, and it was very interesting, and I don't disagree with him. It did come across as a little bitter, and it's hard to blame him, like when you're putting like thousands and thousands of hours into like these entries and spending like a crazy amount of money, and then you don't even get to hear why. And it like and I don't disagree that I think some things should have won that didn't. Blasey blee blee blue blah. But it's not just him. Like that's why I kind of brought it up. Like a lot of the channels are talking about it. I know Squidmar was talking about it. Vince Venturella actually made a video last year about why he's not doing Golden Demon anymore. And I just thought they were all very interesting, and I never brought it up before.
So. I know very little about Golden Demon, but I've heard that it's basically that like you start with a perfect score and they subtract things as opposed to like attributing things to you. And
that's true.
That in some ways it can be not gamed, but they're looking for very specific things, or like for you not to have screwed up essentially.
It's true, but you know, like it's, you can't, like, I guess you won't know though, like what they decided that you screwed up, you know, or something, I guess. Like,
that feels weird that you don't get to know.
And yeah, it exactly, especially when you're spending that much money, and then they got this whole weird pin system. But like, anyway, there's a bunch of content creators talking about it, and I thought it was interesting. Rob, like I did Jugs more in college. Now I stick to pints because I'm old and the hangovers kill me. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh yeah. I saw an old GW advert where Duncan was Conan, Peachy, and Louise were in the ad. Yeah, that's the one. They go like, "What is best in life?" It's like from that scene in Conan the Barbarian. And then you know, he's like something about the Peachy does like the open step, and you know or I forget, it was like, you know, having a bunch of miniatures on the shelf and the wind through your hair, and he's bald, so it's funny. And then at the end they've got Duncan on the table, and he's like, to paint your models, to see them before you, or whatever. He does the line from Conan. It's awesome. It's one of the best adverts they've ever done. That and the Matrix one are my two favorites by far, even more than James Workshop, which I do enjoy. Yeah, Golden Demon uses a point rule set designed by GW. Of course, it's busted. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's too bad. It's too bad to see, like, you know, again, like they're creating like a kind of animosity where they really don't need to have one. I think the main problem, and I mean, they talk about it in the video, I think for the most balanced perspective on it, probably stick with the Squidmar one or the Vince Venturella one. But the problem is that like they don't want people to know who's judging the miniatures. And so then, and it's like when they make art or rule books or whatever, you don't get to know who makes it, with the idea of protecting them. But it creates all sorts of problems. And, you know, and it is what it is. But it's not like it's something that I'm gonna ever get into. I'm not gonna travel, over there for a painting competition. I like to paint my models. I like to paint them the way that I want them to paint. Want to paint them, but I'm not the,
Golden Demon entries are also just like nuts. Like
they're all insane.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever be at that level, just because it takes like dozens, if not hundreds of hours to paint one of those things, and I just don't think I've ever put that much time into one miniature.
You're talking like literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Like they talk about it in the different videos. Like Marco was saying, like 600 hours or something like that for one of his entries, and then however many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. And yeah, I don't care. Like I love looking at them. I love that they did them. I care about their models that they painted. Like they create these beautiful scenes. Like we've gotten some insanely awesome and creative entries. Like the what's his name? The guy I always call Kato Ezeshiar. Remember where it was a reflection of him in the lake. And then, oh my God, like we're going to talk about that forever. But like one that I saw ages and ages ago, like back in like 2016, 2017, it was for Adepticon before they brought Golden Demon back to Adepticon. And it was, I think it was Manfred like bowing before Nagash, who's like sitting in this giant like throne. Unbelievable. Like I'll never forget that entry. Right. Stuff like that. Yeah. It's so cool. Did Rob and Carson talk about the new Armies of Renown in the White Dwarf article? We did not. But a lot of people miss this, Matthew. They're actually legends. So they're not like match play. So, I mean, we could. The only thing is, though, is that I don't know how many, a lot of people miss that, by the way. So don't feel bad if you didn't notice that. It was like a little thing at the end, like, by the way, here are all the rules. All of this. Now that you're done reading all this insane information, by the way, legends only. You're just like, come again? What was that? Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyway. I like to look at Golden Demon pics, knowing full well I'm incapable of that. It's a nerdy version of watching muscle or car television while driving a Ford Taurus. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that, Like I forget who I was talking about this with, but my parents used to watch cooking shows, and they would never make anything that was on any of the shows ever. Like both good cooks, both my parents. I was very lucky to have parents that both, didn't mind cooking and were good at it and whatnot. And I was always just like, how can you watch these shows where they're making all these delicious things and not want to make them? And they're like, it's just interesting. Okay. I think for food though, that's particularly difficult, right? Like that's a bit of a special thing, right? Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe they're kind of like internalizing some things that the chefs are doing and whatnot, and then
probably. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's true. That's absolutely true.
Whereas I stare at a Golden Demon entry and I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? Who am I? I'll never be this good. And I'm turning off my computer now.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things where you either have to go into it all out, or just be content and enjoy your own journey. Yeah, I agree with you, Keith. I paint to the point where I go, yep, I'm happy to put this on the table, roll dice, and move it around. For me, it's a little different. I'm a little more obsessive than that. Like I have this idea in my head, and if I don't execute it, then I do feel awful. Like there's usually some kind of idea, you know what I mean? And I don't, obviously a lot of the time I don't execute it to the point where, but I just need to get it to the point where I'm happy that I executed that idea, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel the same way about a lot of my projects. Like if I don't see it as like a success, it's like, I'm putting this in the closet.
Yeah, exactly.
It can never be seen again.
Yeah. I remember before too, it would be like I'd be painting like up underneath like clan rats crotches and stuff like that. And our local store owner was like, no one is ever going to see that. Like, there's no point in even painting that. And I'm like, but I know. So.
Yeah, like I've seen people on like the Warhammer subreddit posting pictures of they've painted like the consoles on the inside of the Rhino tanks or whatever. Or some tank has computers on them that
glued
you
it
seal.
up.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Land Raiders and stuff. They all have fully working like interiors and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then people just like seal it.
Yeah,
it's just like no one will ever see this unless they step on it. But I'll know.
Exactly. I saw one for the Land Raider before, and what they did was, you know how like the inside of like tanks and stuff, they have that like green light, and so everything's just like lit in green. They did that on the inside, and I think you could remove the door so you could actually see theirs, but it was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I remember with the the new Necron models, they'll have it so that like the carapace that you put on top sometimes will have little scarabs like crawling around it that no one will ever possibly see. It's just like a fun little thing that you know is there, I guess. So
that's funny. Yeah. Or like, what's her name? What's the priest lady that can do two?
Actually, Talia Vedra, who is
Talia. Yes.
Oh no, the priest lady. Sorry.
No, not Talia. That's it. She's got her like weed stash inside her chair, and you can paint it, but like you can't put that model together so that people can even see that, really. Or actually, you know what though? I say that, but I actually did something similar at one point. You know the black coach for Night Haunt? There's a coffin in the back that's inside like the carriage, and you can barely see anything. And so like I think the idea is that you either paint it with the coffin lid off so you see the vampire inside, or you paint it with it fully closed. But I was like, but what if I paint everything and then I glue it on an angle so it's like partially open? And so that's what I did. Because the vampire inside looks awesome, and the cover of the coffin looks awesome. So I was like, I want both of these things, and I'm sure it's crap not buying two of them because they have not traditionally been great. Nice. It's funny that I think because of the delay in the chat. Yeah, Pontifex Venestra, is that right?
Zenestra.
Zenestra. I was like, that sounds wrong. Yeah, her weed stash, Keith. That's what we call it because we're from British Columbia.
It's not even just a BC thing anymore. It's legal all across Canada.
No, I know. Well, no, I just meant because
yeah, traditionally a stoner province for sure.
Thank you. I was going to say also we're actually famous for having very high quality as well.
That's
true.
That's
probably more back in the day when things weren't nationalized as much and stuff. But I actually had a group of friends who they drove out east. They drove to Ontario. They bought a brick of weed, just retail, basically, right? Not retail because it's illegal back then, but they bought it from someone, right? And then they went out east, and because it was BC Bud, they actually made so much more money from that sale that they paid for their entire trip for 4 guys. So, wow. Yeah,
So you're saying that's how we fund our tournament trips in the future? Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Wow.
Wow. Who needs a license?
I gotta call Kenrick. Yeah. I'm sure they won't mind across the border, right? No, definitely not.
No. The States is pretty chill about that stuff.
Yeah.
The
States is just really chill in general, I find.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't care about illegal drugs. BC Bud sponsoring this week's episode. Yeah, I wish. I remember back in 2000 and what was it, 5 or 6? There was a really famous store in that was selling it openly when it was still illegal. Obviously, it was still totally illegal, and they were pulling in over $10,000 a day. And they're just like, "What are you gonna do about it?"
Yeah, there was a time where there were tons of cannabis dispensaries that were not legal, but they were
No.
like storefronts just selling weed.
But
Before weed was
openly
legal.
though. Like,
no, I know, and
like
people
Blood
are doing
Brothers. Like, what did people think they were selling?
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's still a place called Mushroom Cuts downtown.
Okay.
Where they sell psilocybin.
Oh,
and then
crazy.
Also, it's a barber shop. So, yeah.
That is, yeah. I don't own the Pontifex. Don't like the fluff or model or 3.0 auto include rules. Oof. Shots fired. What, you don't like Pontifex? Granny Pontifex on her war chair or whatever the thing is? She's chill, Keith. She's got her stash, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of her. I do like Talia. I think she's a cool model. Did I just hear Stoner Province? Yes, you did. And it's about as accurate a description as I've ever heard. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the entire province is made out of like surfer hippies or something.
Yeah. It's like a really weird mix of like, sometimes you'll see like a climate change denier, but it's just like, because our crystals are not aligned.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
That's true. I have experienced that. That kind of weird
completely jarring, like opposite ends of the spectrum, just punching in the middle towards each other, and you're like, wow, okay. It's crazy.
But mostly, like, assuming you're like talking about, inside like the metropolitan Vancouver area.
Yeah.
Very liberal, extremely liberal here, but it's strangely like quite liberal even if you go to like other places. But then that's where you see what you're talking about more, where it's just like, yeah, I won't even say like some of the stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't want to give people the wrong idea about the province, but yeah, there's all kinds, right? What exactly does Canadian Spicoli look like? Well, I mean, I don't know that it necessarily looks any different, but I'm assuming you're talking about weed, right?
I don't know. I Googled Spicoli and there's a guy named Jeff Spicoli, and I'm like, that's what he looks like, I guess. Like, I don't
yeah, I don't know. Assuming we're talking about the Mary Juana.
He's played by Sean Penn.
Okay.
Oh no, he's American. I thought it was. Never mind. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure.
I usually call it like the devil's lettuce, jazz cabbage.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Apparently that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both fine names.
Yep.
I
Only
approve.
2 names.
Yes, Sean Penn. Okay, wait. Canadian Spicoli. Oh, Sean Penn. I don't understand.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, I understand less now than I thought I did originally. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the show. Wait, but like...
It says Jeff Spicoli is a carefree stoner and slacker who lives only for surfing and getting high. I mean, you can do both of those things here.
Now I get it. I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. Yeah, it took us a bit. I mean, like, pretty much just the same. Yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll move on. I mean, I can't think. So wait, we talked. Actually, we didn't talk about Kippers. Good God.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Alex. I feel bad. Sometimes we just get a little distracted. So Kippers happened this last weekend. I don't remember how many people were there.
40? 38?
Maybe 48.
Let me take a
38.
Look. I got it.
Maybe 108. But
35.
Okay. 35. Nice. It was a golden ticket event, and our good friend Mr. Alex Butler took home the 5-0, the golden ticket, and the whole shebang with Ida Deepkin.
He did not take the golden ticket.
I'm lying.
Yeah, you are a liar. But he did 5-0. He did win the event.
Okay.
The golden ticket went to best overall for this event, I believe.
Okay.
I think even if Alex did get the golden ticket, which he might have, I'm not sure. He was going to pass it along just because he wouldn't be able to go.
That might have been what it is, right?
But yeah, he has his Iden of Deepkin, which John, who is the Sparkle Party TO, famously said he made objectively the wrong choice to bring one of the units, and he's been doing it ever since, and absolutely kicking ass with it. So take that, John.
Suck it, John.
Yep.
Love you, buddy.
Yep. Please come back.
Shuck it long, shuck it hard. Golden ticket was for best overall. Kippers is traditionally soft score heavy. Yeah, interesting. What? Oh, yeah, I loved Ludivicus's comment. It's perfect. I already congratulated him. It's Alex. He ain't getting 2 congrats from me. Love it. Mwah.
Call him one congrats, Ludivicus.
One congrats, Divicus. Yeah. Exactly. Did it really take me this long to notice Carson had a model on his mic?
Where is it though?
Yeah.
Go on.
Are you sure you didn't imagine that model, Keith?
Yep. Silly Billy.
Do.
But yeah, Kippers was actually the tournament that I got my golden ticket from last year.
Right.
So I'm happy that another large white bald man got the win. That's great.
Yep.
Let's keep that rolling into next year. And but a different one. We got to find a new one.
Right. Or at least shave someone's head.
Yeah, just like as they're about to win the game, just hit him down.
Like, oh no!
Yeah,
he's not bald. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Where can I buy a 4-liter bucket of Nair? That's what I need to know. Yeah.
What's Nair?
Nair. It's like that. Maybe it's like an age thing. I don't know. Like for a while in like the 2000s, there was like this paste you could buy that you like put on hair and it just like melts it off your body. It's crazy.
Oh, that sounds not safe.
It's been around forever though. It's been around for like well over a decade. And yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
It was the most Canadian thing ever for a British man to present an award to a British man.
Oh yeah, I just realized. Yeah, because our buddy Andy Selwood, King of the Cornhole, was TOing it, and he is also from England. So yeah,
that's true. Just 2 Brits. Yeah, I'm gonna try and come next year. This year it was just like I thought I couldn't go because Masters was scheduled for the same weekend, and then Masters was not scheduled for the same weekend, and then something else came up that I thought I couldn't go, and then that ended up not being on the same weekend. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna take the weekend off because I've just been going to too many tournaments and traveling too much and whatnot. So
I think that was the right decision once you knew you couldn't go.
I tend to decide to go to a tournament like several months in advance, and it was like less than a month probably when I realized that I couldn't, or that I actually probably could go.
Okay. But it is to your everlasting shame that you didn't go, just to be clear. Yeah. And so hopefully next year you will correct that.
Hopefully.
Support local tournaments, even if you're not the TO, Mr. Wet Coast TO. It was actually Andy used to be he used to be the TO for all the BC tournaments. Like literally, he would drive out to Attack X in wherever it was, Kelowna? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that's funny. You're a bastard. So my buddy plays your typical Troggoth list. I was going to use my new Skaven. Can you guys recommend any strats to take down rock guts? Also, would you use the Skaven endless spells or something else? Well, Tom, are you playing Scryer? Because if you're not, like, if you're just playing, they're really hard to take down in general. They're one of the hardest to kill units in the game. They went up in points, so then, it's better now.
Yeah. I think even a unit of Rattling guns on average sinks 10 or 11 damage through to rockets.
Okay. Jeez.
If assuming you're all out attacking the Rattling guns and you have your Scryer bonus and they're all out defensed and in the bad mood. So like everyone has everything they want, basically.
Yeah.
Then you sink about 10 to 11 damage through afterwards.
So you're killing
two. You're killing two, yeah.
1 to 2.
Yeah.
9 damage, then you're only killing 1.
Yeah.
And then they slap you and heal up.
Yeah, but that being said, like once you kill a Trog, it's probably not coming back. What the worst thing is, like,
out of the shrine.
You damage a Trog. No, I know it's coming out of the shrine, but I'm saying if you like cripple a unit down to like 1 or 2 Trogs, that's kind of it. Like it's not true. Like more are gonna come back. They'll heal up and they'll still smack things.
Right.
But yeah, I think a unit of Trogs can get tar pitted by a unit of Clan Rats, just because the Clan Rats are going to be healing at the end of every turn. It'll at least time up for like a
couple rounds.
Yeah, which is kind of all you want. Are Rattling guns that much better than Jezzail's? Yes, in almost every single circumstance.
It's so sad and it sucks, Tom. I tried to use them. I brought Jezzail in the mirror match. I just didn't want to. Use models that were like, I didn't want to proxy too much, essentially. It wasn't a stream game, obviously. And man, the Jezzails were just quite disappointing. The nice thing is that, like, there is an extra range on the Jezzail, even if they don't move, only in your turn, though. And that's kind of where the issue is, right? If that existed all the time, then it would be something. At least then it's like 24 inches all the time. But yeah, it sucks. I wish they just changed their War Scroll back. Change it back. Honestly, maybe even change I don't know. The Arch Warlock thing is pretty dope. Yeah, just change the Jezzail back. Just revert them to their previous one, and then they have a place at least, right? In the army. Yeah. It's too bad. They're so cool. I love snipers. Yeah. But yeah, like, I don't know. Do you have enough Rattling guns to bring like 12? Because then we're starting to cook with some gas.
Yeah. Generally, it depends on the battle plan too. Like if you're playing against Frogs, where they become kind of weak is if you're playing on like a 6 objective mission, it's pretty spread out. You can kind of just avoid them. Or like they can't really afford to completely castle up in one spot, and if they do, then you just say, "Cool, I'm gonna have the rest of the board," and then just outscore them on.
At you.
Yeah, exactly, and just outscore them on primaries. And so that's like a big thing. Generally, you just don't want to be just like head on rushing into their big castle, essentially, because you will bounce. It's pretty rare that an army can actually just like tear down their castle in one turn.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at least and they are slower as well. So if they have mixed, squigs and trogs and stuff like that, then you can pick the soft targets for your shooting. Yeah, capture objectives like Carson said.
And if you are going to go after squigs, you want to make sure that they're going to die immediately with whatever you send after them. That's just because if you don't kill them right away, then they can just like zoop all the way back up to basically full health in one turn, because they have a combination of rally as well as their for each squig lure they have that can be returning D3 squigs, I think.
Yep. Same as the last edition. Obviously, don't forget, like, if they roll a 1 on that roll, then the handler dies.
Yep. So, but then they can just rally it back.
They sure can.
Which is why usually unless they don't have all of their lures, you basically just like make that roll, lose however many lures you lose, and then rally, and then bring back. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff coming back. So
it's pretty good.
And then I think, I don't know how common it is to take it, but you can get additional rally rolls too with someone.
Well, I mean,
oh no, it's an artifact, isn't it? Or like a.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's a heroic trait. You can get extra 3. I think it's 3.
Extra 3 rolls. Yeah.
Right. So.
How many clan rats do you use in a typical list?
I usually am taking. I mean, I've been taking more lately. In 3rd edition, I was averaging like 40, and now I'm averaging like 60 to 80. I actually think they're really good.
I think 40 is like the absolute minimum you should be taking right now.
Oh, minimum. Absolute bare minimum. Yeah. You mean total, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I haven't made a list without. I actually haven't made a list in a while without 60. And that was a Molder list where I had like other bodies on there as well. Or no, you know what? I think I did have a list with just 40 in them total, but they were that was a while ago. That was like near the start, and it was definitely not in the book. It was in the index. But yeah, I like 80, and then what I'm typically forced to do before I had two units of 40, but I had an extra like drop slot available, so I split one of them into 2 units of 20, and I like it a lot better. In fact, I would have all of them as 20s if it weren't for the fact that I would go into 3 drops at that point. But yeah, Clan Rat blobs would be much cooler now that Battleshock is gone. It's true, although like just like having different like layers of chaff and ability to grab different parts of the battlefield more easily, pop up out of gnaw holes and do different things like that. I'm just finding that there's like, unless you're taking them in Verminous, I don't think you ever want to have them in 40s because they're not a hammer outside of Verminous. And yeah, like, you know, Storm Vermin, on the other hand, I'm taking only in 20s, but I'm not really taking them anyway. I know they have more DPS, but in terms of melee than any other unit that we have. But yeah, I'm not quite seeing the value in them. I want to try them out with, what's his name? Foulblade. I'd like to try and make like a pure Verminous list with him and like either a Grey Seer or like a Vermin Lord, you know, or something like that. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. He also asks, last question, Skaven and the spells or something like
right.
There's an argument for both, I think. Like,
yeah,
I kind of like the bell is just nice to have a -1 to wound bubble. That's super nice.
Just the bell. Just the bell. Like that's the whole reason I take their endless spell. And like it depends on how many casters you have too, right? Like if you're just taking one, then I take the Skaven's endless spells every time because it's just like that's all I want. I just want that spell, you know. But yeah, no. Mekrat was taking what's the name of that speller? He was taking. We just did it actually. We did do the Skaven review last week, Tom, and you can get like Mekrat Keegan from his channel Mekrat. We go into full detail and we go into a lot of detail about that specifically. So I would definitely check it out. But that's what it was. It was Aether Rot machineries. Yeah, but. I just personally find that like if I can keep my chaff alive using the bell, because it's a big bubble, right? It just makes it so much easier to play Skaven. You know what I mean? Like one of the biggest problems with them like is that there's no good saves in the entire army. You know, the best save is a 4-up save. And so stuff will melt because of it. But with a -1 to wound, you can make stuff -1 to hit, and then it's really anyway, yeah. I'm a huge Bell stan, so very biased. Just one caster. Yeah, I would yeah, that's another way of going too. Some people like the Kronspine. I don't own the model, but yeah, and it depends on the list too, you know. But If you got shooting, you're just keeping stuff alive. You're keeping the chaff alive, and then you're just able to blast away. Grey Seer, Clan Rats, Claw Lord, Rat Ogres, Reinforced, Arch Warlock, Doomflayers, Rattling Guns, Reinforced, and then Deceiver, Clan Rats. I would take out the Claw Lord. Do you know how many points you are? I know the nice thing about the Claw Lord is that he doesn't add an extra drop, but he's the closest thing to dead weight that there really is in the army, unfortunately. If you could fit another unit of Clan Rats, or 1980. So that would get you 120 points, and Doomflayers are 130. What is 120 points? What are Night Runners? If you could fit Night Runners, the Grey Seer, but the Grey Seer would add an extra drop. Oh man, I don't know what I would add if you have 120 points. Yeah. You could. You know what? Message me afterward, Tom. We got to run, and I have a few things, but we can message back and forth. That reminds me, if you're not in the Discord already, link in the description below. It's of course free, and we're happy to have you. Next week we're going to be talking about Feast of Blades, right? Okay. Was it Feast for Blades of Blades? Anyway, anything to talk about before we sign out of here, Carbington?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered all the things we wanted to talk about. So,
I think so. Congrats again to Alex. It was awesome to see his list doing so well still. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we provided you with some painting fodder, and we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.